So again, that's your clearance for a 3. So could you lift the hip up and come down just slightly here. Now hold there, don't only press down. Hands across your chest, please. Set them nice and tall.
It's not easy.
No, it's certainly not easy. So,
I was leaning backwards there. It's not easy.
so those are for your 3. He got the 3 easily. As we were building up. So if that was his pathological hip and I want to set some goals for it, I'd say 3+. If it was uninvolved side, it might be like, throw him a 4 or something. But yeah, if that's the involved side, I got nice 3-4 week short-term goal and 8-week goal. Again, you have to 4+. We'll get you there. So for sartorius, you're going to flex, abduct, and slightly externally rotate there. So what the resistance will be is you're going to try to flex a little bit more. So you can come down and also try to externally rotate the hip there too. So go ahead and hold here. Don't only press down. He was telling me before he hit the sartorius yesterday, so he's probably also a lot of this.
They have a machine that you just do that.
So again, the difference there is that you're starting externally rotated, slight abduction. You're just going out of those positions. Okay. And when we learn PNF positions, PNF patterns, that is a PNF pattern. I don't know if it's D1 or D2 flexion. Anyone? D1 big shot.
Out in would be flexion.
Okay, nice. Chalk up and put it on there. All right, so if he's unable to fully flex, he's unable to get the leg up off the ground, I'm going to have you laying down on your left side, please. Facing. So what you're doing here is you're supporting the knee, depending on the size of the limb. Again, I'll stabilize here at the pelvis. Are you able to bring your knee up towards your chest? And then come on back down. Very good. And that's going to get you your 2 out of 5 measurement. And there's something on the lab that was a typo that got carried over from the past. It says less than 3 out of 5. There were some questions. He could easily get to 3 out of 5. And then we know the 2+ is if you're able to get through, half the motion. So it should be less than 2+ on here as opposed to less than 3 out of 5. Someone caught that in the first lap, so don't get confused by it. Questions with those few? Hip extension, can I have you on your stomach, please? So the first one, just pure hip extension. Keeping the leg straight. I'm gonna have you lift the left leg up off the table for me there. And relax. One more time. And relax. So again, you know that we're checking our motion. If that was his full, then we can assume that that's a 3. So go ahead and lift up. Don't let me press down. So this one will sometimes, again, lack of motion, hamstring substitution will sometimes, again, that we could give, we give a 4+ or a 5. There was a little bit of give initially, but then he was able to maintain. However, it wasn't very far off the table too. So we'll talk about that in a second, hamstring versus glute dominance. So that's looking at hip extension to target glute max. Flex your knee to 90. I'm gonna have you lift this leg as if you're to put your foot flat on the ceiling there. Good, relax back down. Lift it up. Hold there, don't let me press down. And relax. So I'm getting a ton of hamstring there. So with that, again, you could give that a 4+ out of 5. But again, when you're doing these, a simple way of telling about someone's glute dominance is what I like to do is go ahead and try to lift your left leg up off the table and relax down. One more time. Good. And relax. Same thing here. And relax. One more time. So what I'm palpating for is just in the muscle mass here. What happens first is glute is your primary hip extensor. Hamstrings are accessory. This was firing first, then these fire. So that tells me how he's using his hips. So for those that have really bad hamstring tightness, there might be more tone built up from chronic overuse of the hamstrings as opposed to actually being able to turn the glute on. So that's going to be a lot of neuromuscular re-education, how to fire this over the hamstrings, because the hamstring should be assisting the glutes, not the primary mover of the muscle. So that's just a little, that's not on here, that's just a little side clinical note. So then for those who think, you know, if they're hamstring dominant, you can tell your friends. So could I have you lay on your left side again for me, please? So again, so for the gravity minimized position for hip extension, you can bring them into a slight amount of flexion. Can you bring your leg back towards me? Good, and relax. And then again, because we did the one with the knee flex, so you can flex the knee, and then again, bring your hip leg back towards me again. And relax, good. So those are for your 2 out of 5. Any questions with those?
So it doesn't matter if you do it straight or knee flex.
We did both for hip extension, so if you want to target if the glute could do it more. So if the length of the limb was easier for you to flex the knee, you're still looking for that glute to fire too. So again, if the knee flex, the argument would be that that's more pure glute max as opposed to the entire glute group. So for hip abduction, this is the one where we used as the example in class about the overlapping of cross bridges, putting it in a disadvantaged position. So can I have you scooch to the center of the table a little bit more? Good. So what you can see is our natural tendency to want to curl up and flex. So when a lot of people say, I'm going to have you bring your leg up to the side, there's usually a slight amount of hip flexion for those who can see. So what I'll do is I'll position this leg here, bring the hip back into neutral, and I'll go ahead and lift your leg up to my hand. Good. So go ahead and do that again. Hold here. So to get a 5, he's got to be able to tolerate resistance at the ankle. Hold there. Don't let me press down. So we had a little bit of a break. He hit the glutes too, and the sartorius, so leave him alone. So now to get the 4, we come up, same position. Now you come up to the knee. Apply the same resistance. Hold there. Don't push down. Good. So again, I would give that, because he did break, he got more, he got the full range, so he got the 3, he tolerated some resistance, it wasn't on the build up, so it'd be like a 4 minus. A 4 would be the 5-second hold at the knee, a 5 is a 5-second hold at the ankle. Again, you're just making that moment arm longer, applying a lot more torque, so that's indicating greater strength when he's able to apply the resistance here. While we're here for adduction, Dr. Devine and I talked in the last group. The textbook does it in a weird way. I'll show you. So they have them here. Want to lift your left leg into adduction, and then they have you do this and kind of like, hi-ya. Yeah. So that is an option in case they can't do this with the hip. Kind of feed the vibe type thing. So what you're going to do is you're going to lift the leg up. Now hold there. Don't let me press down. Not bad. You know, hey, we made a 5 on it. So, but again, watching, my hand is proximal the whole time, is stabilizing the pelvis. Because you want, that's going to tell me as a therapist, is he substituting, and that's going to give information as to, all these patients that we're doing this on are going to have a script. So you're going to start to think, how is this time with the symptoms? Right now we're doing it just for the sake of doing it. But as we start to synthesize with our evaluation, that's where this comes in handy. So the gravity minimized positions, so again, it's best, nope, you can bang on your back. Yep, you're perfect. So what you're going to do is you're going to support the limb for abduction. Can you bring your leg out towards me, please? And then back together. Very good. So in a way, that was both AB and adduction. So for true AD, you could just relax. I'm going to bring them into an abduction position. Now bring your leg back towards the center. And again, that's going to be for your 2 out of 5 gravity minimized. I'm not providing them any type of stability other than that slight flexion so you can AB and adduct. Questions with those ones? Can I have you sit on the edge of the table, please? So for external rotation, you're going to bring the foot over. There we go. So, so once you bring the foot over, go ahead there. Don't let me move you. Good. And now bring the foot out. Hold there. So for his internal rotators, I would have given that 4 plus, because he held the build up. External rotators are pretty good. Those were a 5. They didn't break much. And what my hand here isn't a counter pressure. It's not a 50-50. It's just making sure he's keeping in the same place. So I'm not applying pressure here. It looks like it might be a cross force here, but as he's here, all I'm doing is to make sure that I'm not going to abduct his leg as I'm also trying to rotate it. So this is just to make sure that I'm keeping femoral alignment, and then I'm just putting a true rotary force to the hip. My favorite ones, the modified ones for these. Have you lay down on your back, please? Very complicated. Very complicated. All right, so you're going to, for internal rotation, you're going to externally rotate the hip. Can you bring your toe over? Roll it. There you go. That's internal. Ready for external? Roll your foot out. You're at least, you're good. So those are your 2s. With the external, make sure that they're not just in neutral, because the resting position of the acetabulum is going to put us into slight external rotation, so gravity might just pull it out there. So you want to make sure that you're not here, you're kind of taking the whole limb and being able to rotate the hip, so then he's getting that hip rotation, that you're not torquing the ankle, you're not giving any type of, Mike's got good knee stability, but you're not getting any type of rotary stability at the knee, that you're putting him into internal, and you roll your foot out. Very good. And that's for your 2 out of 5 and below. Questions?